Joined by Republican political analyst CARL CALABRESE. CARL, thanks so much for joining us on the 5:30 today. With Trump winning,
with you, Claudine.
Nice to have you. With Trump winning New Hampshire, it says a lot, especially since it is more of a moderate state. How does this energize his camp and those who are also anti-Trump?
Well, going back to 2016, the folks who are opposed to Trump always said the problem is there's too many challengers. They're splitting up the anti-Trump vote. And if we could get it down to just a two-person race head-to-head, that's when you'd see his weakness. Well, they not only had a head-to-head race, a two-person race in New Hampshire, they had very, very favorable ground in terms of an open primary where Democrats could vote in the Republican primary and independents could vote in the Republican primary. In fact, the majority of people who voted in the Republican primary were not Republicans. They were Democrats and independents. And despite that, he still won by double digits. So she's going to have difficulty. If her money starts to dry up, so will the campaign. And the other problem she's going to have is right now, the next state, the big state on the agenda is South Carolina in about a month. That's her home state. She was elected governor there twice. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average of polls has her down by 30 points. If she loses her home state by big numbers, I don't see how she can go on. If you think back to 2016, when Marco Rubio lost his home state of Florida to Donald Trump in the primaries, he withdrew right after that. So we'll have to see what she does between now and the end of February, how much money still comes in and what the numbers show, because I got a feeling she may not want to lose by big numbers in her home state.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, CARL, because South Carolina is coming up next. Does she really have to win that to stay in this?
Oh, she's got to, if not win it, she's got to come very, very close to make it look like this could be a horse race. But again, right now, it looks like South Carolina is Trump country. I mean, he's been endorsed by the Republican governor, the lieutenant governor, both Republican senators, members of Congress. He seems to be very comfortable in South Carolina, and South Carolina Republicans seem to be very, very comfortable with him.
Let's talk about this. There are many asking, how can Trump do so well with all of the legal problems that he has? And the speech last night we saw, the tone, was that the tone that America needs, or does it appeal to his base?
That was not the right tone. I thought the right tone was the speech he gave after Iowa. It was more conciliatory. It was a softer version of Trump. When I saw it, I said, boy, if he could maintain this demeanor through the campaign, he could win, because as you know, so many people have said, I like Trump's policies, but I just couldn't deal with the man anymore and his personality. I had Trump fatigue. But unfortunately, last night, he chose to go back to the dark side, and he was the old Trump. I don't think that serves him well in a general election, because it turns off independents. As I was watching that speech, I made a note to myself, this is what independents hate most about Trump, is this attitude and this behavior. And so I think the Democrats are banking on that if you give Donald Trump enough rope, he will hang himself. But get him out there long enough, and he will remind all of those people, especially independents, who abandoned him in 2020 after having voted for him in 2016. It will remind them of why they left him in 2020. And I think their strategy is let him keep talking, and those folks will come home to us in 2024, just as they did in 2020.
Interesting. What would a Trump ticket look like from your perspective? Who do you see as his potential running mate?
That's a really good question. That's a good question. No one knows. I know this, though, if you study the history of presidential politics and picking vice presidents, most of the time vice presidents are chosen because they bring something to the table that the nominee is lacking. Okay, for example, in 1960, Lyndon Johnson brought to the Kennedy ticket the Texas and the South. In 2016, Donald Trump had a serious problem with evangelical Christians. What did he do? He brought on Mike Pence, who did a very good job of bringing that vote home to Donald Trump in 2016, and that vote has stayed with Donald Trump. And so you look and you say, what will Trump need as a vice president to boost his chances? Right now, based on the polls, it looks like he needs suburbanites and he needs independents. He won the independent vote by 4 points in 2016 and then lost it by 9 points in 2020. He cannot afford to lose by 9 points. If he loses independents by 9 points again in 2024, he will not win the election. It's just that simple. His base gets him to about 45, 46%. He's got to win the independent vote. So I would think, unless things change in terms of the polls and what he is seen as needing, right now, I would think that's where he'll be looking. And you know, the other thing he may look at obviously is the gender issue. If he, you know, he's got a number of very competent Republican elected officials, women elected officials, governors, the governor of Arkansas, Huckabee Sanders, governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. There've been talk about Elise Stefanik from New York. He may have a good talent pool there that may be able to attract suburbanites and independents.
Going to be interesting. CARL CALABRESE, our Republican GOP analyst, we appreciate you joining us today on the 530. We'll tap back into your knowledge, I'm sure, in the weeks to come. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Claudine. Thank you.